Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I'm a voice teacher. Today I'll be reacting to and analyzing Ben Platt performing For Forever.
End of May or early June, this picture-perfect afternoon we share. Drive the winding country road, grab a scoop at a la mode, and then we're there.
So he is in front of a microphone, not on the stage that he usually performs in. It just makes everything a little bit more contained. His acting is still 100% there, and you see it in his face, but he just doesn't have the space to kind of move around and show with that. So a lot of times when you're performing for camera versus for stage, it's the same passion, but it's like less. And so it's interesting. So far, he's already in character. I'm just looking forward to see how he makes that change between performing for stage in a theater and performing for television.
An open field that's framed with trees. We pick a spot and shoot the breeze like buddies do.
I love that he is playing with a live orchestra and live piano player right now, because he's able to kind of borrow and give and take, and he's not just a slave to the click track. He's taking from some places and giving to some others, and the piano player is just following. And I think that that's lovely, because it's so hard to act the way that you want if you're just singing to music in a can. And with this, it shows that the acting is leading and his interpretation of the song is leading rather than needing to be accurate to the music 100% of the time.
Quoting songs by our favorite bands, telling jokes no one understands except us two, and we talk and take in the view.
Vocally, what he's doing so far is basically speaking on pitch, and it's not speaking super loud. It's driven by who he's talking to. Whatever he's talking to, that's how loud he is being. Where if you pretend that you're talking to someone who's like just a few feet away from you and they're old friends, like the song kind of implies, and all of that, that you're gonna talk to them in a different way than if you're talking to your teacher who's 20 feet away from you, or if you're talking to a baby or any of those things. So it makes me think that he has just a very strong idea of who he's talking to, and that's informing how he's using his voice so far. But it's not super loud. It's a really quiet place, which gives him a lot of room to grow as the song continues.
All we see is sky for forever. We let the world pass by for forever.
He's doing a lovely job of kind of flipping at the top note and then letting that blend down into his chest voice again, or into a more modal voice. So when he goes into that flip place, it kind of lets go of all of the vocal fold closure that he has, and then it gently comes back down as he comes back down. So I think that that's actually a lovely way to start incorporating your entire range together, is work on falsetto and see if you can start making that blend back down into your lower voice, where a lot of times we want to kind of rush the process and just blast it and get really loud early. But I find that working with people on this falsetto integration, when you start going back into the louder stuff, into more of a full voice sound, it just prepares the vocal folds to be able to do that. And we'll see as he continues with it, he's totally able to get to those higher notes, to like that's the G, in a full voice configuration. But it's almost like doing the first few in this headier, light coordination when he gets to the top, is preparing him for those bigger parts later on in the song when it gets more to the climax.
Feels like we could go on for forever this way.
Volume increases, but it doesn't sound heavier.
We walk a while and talk about the things we'll do when we get out of school. Bike the Appalachian Trail, or write a book, or learn to sail. Wouldn't that be cool? There's nothing that we can't discuss.
Character comes first. That's what matters. And I think his technique has come a long way since he started performing in front of people. And I think that he sounds fantastic. but it's because he's not thinking about the technique and he's just trusting the character and trusting that he's put in all of the work that he's able to come up with a really awesome performance like this.
Like girls we wish would notice us, but never do.
Musical theater, like sometimes we just want it to sound spoken and spoken on pitches. So when he went to the word girls, he didn't try to make it girls or anything, where a lot of voice teachers hate the sound And I think that's pretty common. And I often cut out a lot of when my students are singing because it's generally not the most appealing thing. But for this style that he's singing in, for this contemporary musical theater style, there is so much necessity of being understood and just reliance on authenticity of the language, where it's okay for him to just go girls for a second because it sounds right. It sounds right for the whole thing. And if he had changed the retroflex R into a flipped R and just done girls, or cut out the R completely, or done the girls, like that would sound insane. So sometimes you just have to trust yourself, even though like these are good rules in general. Yeah, R isn't maybe the best sound to kind of dwell on all the time, but just test a bunch of them and see what sounds the most authentic and the most right, because some of these hard and fast rules, like, they just don't hold up in every situation.
Around and says to me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be, and I say, me too. And we talk and take in the view. We just talk.
Gosh, he's so dynamic.
All we see is sky for forever.
When he comes back down to that chest voice, the B flat below, he is letting it kind of shift back down. It doesn't sound like he's getting stuck in his head voice, because if he was getting stuck in falsetto and just pulling that down, that B flat would not sound nearly as full as it does. It would just, the acoustic tuning stops working at about that place, and it starts sounding really hollow and Mickey Mousey. He doesn't sound that way, but it sounds like it's connected to the sounds that he's making at the top. And by asking for the tone to remain the same and the volume to remain the same and the breathiness to remain the same, even though he's letting that feeling move around, we perceive it as smooth. We perceive it as connected. And once you get one sound that's connected like that, you just change one little thing at a time until you can get a bunch of other different sounds. But the basis is still, oh, it feels smooth. I know what it feels like for this to kind of move around and for the sound to remain the same. The general tone color.
For forever. Feels like we could go on.
I don't mind it at all.
Forever. This way, two friends on a perfect day.
When he went up to that higher one, there wasn't very much chord closure. That's just kind of inherent in falsetto, where just the vocal ligament is coming together rather than any of the body of the vocal folds. And so when he gets there, he's letting a lot of this extra air sound come in. You hear his vibrato is quite fast. Some of that is just his voice, and that's fine. Another part is when it's too light, generally that results in a slightly faster vibrato sound. With him, I'm not sure, because even when he gets into more pressed sounds, it sounds a little bit fast like that. If we were just basing his entire vocal health off of his vibrato sound, it might show that there's something funky going on, but it's part of his sound, and that's good. And I don't know if it's something we need to really think about too much. That said, he does have a faster than average vibrato.
And there he goes, racing toward the tallest tree. From far across the yellow field, I hear him calling, follow me. There we go, wondering how the world might look from up so high. One foot after the other, one branch then to another. I climb higher and higher, I climb till the entire sun shines on my face.
With that one, he went up to the G again, so that's the first time that he sung the G in that full voice place. He uses a little bit of a nasty sound, So he uses that slightly nasty sound, which helps to find connection when you get up to those high notes. You see him stick his tongue out a little bit when he gets to it. It's really appropriate for this contemporary musical theater sound to kind of allow that very, like, almost overly forward sound to come in. I don't know if it would work as well for every style of musical theater, and in that place we would need to just kind of let it become less blaringly forward, maybe consciously cut out a little bit of that nastiness if he was singing Marius instead of the song from, or if he was in Les Mis singing Marius instead of in Dear Evan Hansen, like, we would just have a slightly different expectation of what sound is appropriate with that. But he is incredibly reliable, and he was doing this show that is so hard to do, this character that is really difficult, 8 shows a week, so it's working. And so at that point, I'm just getting really picky about, like, aesthetic preferences, and I like this so far, and it seems like it's working, so there's no real necessary need to change.
And I suddenly feel the branch give way. I'm on the ground, my arm goes numb. I look around, and I see him come to get me. He's come to get me.
It's all influenced by his character. You can see he's seeing things. He's putting this image outside of his head so that he's just reacting to everything that's going around and to this memory that he's having. But it's authentic, and you see that, like, this is not something that he's trying to put on. You can't just manufacture all of those little things that happen when he was singing that or saying it on pitch or whatever you'd even want to call it. But it's so authentic and emotional, and that's the next level that kind of separates people who work on Broadway from people who might not work on Broadway as much. Like, they have the sound, but the sound is not the thing that's carrying them. The thing that's carrying them is their connection to the character and their ability to tell a story so beautifully, and just trust that their technique is enough.
And everything's okay. All we see is sky for forever. We let the world pass by for forever. Buddy, you and I for forever. This way, this way.
Yeah, his vibrato is a little bit funky, and I do see just a little bit of jaw tension, but again, he's in this very highly emotional place, and so I think a little jaw tension is warranted in this situation. But if we were just practicing technique and making sure that it was as perfect as possible, in that situation, I would ask to make sure that he's not engaging his jaw at all, because it's good to practice like that and then have this stuff come out, like a little bit of jaw tension or whatever, just as a result of the character and all of that, but not have it be needed in order to make the sounds. And I bet that when he's practicing, if he's not fully involved in character, which I think is probably really hard for him at this point, when he's just working on technique, he's probably able to isolate that a little bit. If he's not, maybe try doing that.
2 friends.
Jeez, he's so connected to it.
Friends on a perfect day.
Yeah, he was so present for that, just in character the entire time. True professional. All the practice that he's done is amazing. And, like, one of my biggest regrets is not seeing him in this role. I still haven't seen this play live, and it makes me mad because that is powerful. He was really, really good in it. That last note that he did, he kind of started in that breathier sound, and then he crescendoed into a more full sound. I think that that's a really good exercise to do, especially if you're just isolating, like, specific parts in your range. No, not just especially. It's good all the time. Like, do messa di voce exercises, because they're some of the hardest exercises you can do, and they help a lot. So if we were doing that sound on an ah, and going from kind of a breathy sound to a less breathy sound, from a quiet sound to a loud sound, and then you come back. That's kind of the full exercise. So it goes... and just getting used to controlling your voice with dynamics and with breathiness, because they are different things. You can do that exercise starting from a quiet place that's breathy, like what he did, or you can start from a quiet place that's not breathy and grow into a loud place and then come back to the same quiet but not breathy place. It just helps you kind of find what volumes and what tones your voice is capable of that day. And it's also really good for passaggio training, for working on those places right in the middle where it feels like it's shifting from your chest to your head a little bit. It's a good way of just locking everything down, because it's really hard. It's one of the hardest exercises you can do. But he obviously knows how to do that and is able to trust that when he was doing this performance. That said, like, I don't think he was thinking for a second about technique while he was doing that. And you can tell, because if he was thinking about technique for a second, he would have broke. Like, everyone, the way that he was so present in his character shows that's exactly where he was, and he was just trusting everything else. So aspire to be like that when you're performing. And if you don't do musical theater, if you do pop or rock music, try to be just as present. Like, you're telling a story, you're communicating. Maybe you're breaking the fourth wall if you're doing one of those styles of music, but you're still in character. So be present in the reason that you're trying to communicate, because that's what people will connect with. And then the technique work that you've done just allows you to be in that place and trust that you won't mess everything up, that you're going to be able to make the sounds required for telling that story. But don't get ahead of yourself and start thinking that people are caring about how perfect your technique is, because, like, it doesn't matter if you're not being expressive. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and go follow me on social media things. Links are in the description. Also, go check out my Discord if you are a person who likes to sing and wants to sing in front of other people and talk about being nice and stuff. There is also a link below. So thank you.